Hi textile buddies, I'm Daria, textile and surface pattern designer and artist, both traditional and digital. On this channel we talk all things textile, color, pattern and artwork because patterns are everywhere. Today is the career edit, you guys. I got a comment on YouTube asking how can you find a full-time in-house textile designer job, and I'm here to tell you. If you don't know, I worked for 4 years as an in-house full-time designer, 2 years for bedding and home products, and 2 years for stationery, gift wrap, gift bags, and so on and so forth, and many other products such tableware and those giant totes that you go to stores with, and napkins, and many more, mugs and all that stuff. So I do have some tips that I can share. Of course, I will be strictly sharing my own experience, which includes a lot of factors such as my location, my education, my experience, and so on. The most important thing that I want to say is you don't have to be a superhuman to get an in-house job, but of course there are some factors that are important. I started out with very little experience. You can still find a job, but there are certain conditions that you have to meet. And let's talk about it. I'll answer some common questions about getting a full-time textile designer job with a focus on making repeating patterns mostly. I always like to add that because there are other kinds of textile design, and if you haven't seen my video with 19 kinds of textile design, you're missing out. So what do you need to start applying for a textile designer job? Number one is, of course, skills. I spoke about it in my How to Begin in Textile Design video, but I will briefly mention. So you need to be able to create a repeating tile, to recolor it, to rescale it, to add elements to your pattern or take them out. For example, sometimes you need to put a stripe behind a repeating tile or a texture. You need to be familiar with trends in textile design in a particular market that you are applying for. It's also good to have some additional skills, for example, graphic design skills. It's good to know composition, maybe good to know fonts. You know, in some jobs you don't need it at all, in some jobs it's helpful. Sometimes lettering is a nice bonus. Because in textile design you can work on pillows, on towels, on gift bags, on greeting cards, and things are not always in repeat. They are not always a repeating pattern. You can have, for example, a gift bag with a single element, right? If you are interested in working with rugs, which are also textiles, you need to know something about weaving, right? I briefly touched weaving in my 19 kinds of textile design video. It feels like I'm pushing my videos, but really I am not. I feel like things are just so connected, and you know, that video I've put a lot of work in. It's a really nice educational video, so please take a look if you're interested. Number two is actually what results from your skills is a portfolio. This is your number one most important thing. It has to be relevant to the job. That's the most important thing. If you are applying to a job in apparel, you need to have some patterns that demonstrate that you can design for prints for clothing. If you are applying to a wallpaper company, you need to show that you can work with large-scale repeats and you understand the market more or less. So by the time you apply, you need to have a portfolio, which can be manifested in different kinds. A website is ideal because it just looks more professional and put together, more serious, so to say. There are even, you know, free websites that you can build. I use Wix for my portfolio website. I think it starts out free. It has some limited capabilities, which should be more than enough to apply for a job. The only thing I think with the free option is that it will have some weird numbers in your name, right? So my website is dariakarensky.com, and for that I have to pay additionally and have to own a domain as well. But if you don't mind having like dariakarensky3256.com, you know, that's free. That should be free. Please check this information because it's been a while. What about Instagram? Instagram definitely helps. It should be a very professional profile. Don't put your food, your dog, your children in there if you use your Instagram as a portfolio. Behance is also a big one. I've heard good things about it. People even get jobs from Behance. It's a professional, so to say, design community. It's always mentioned among professional designers. I'm still not on Behance. I know. So when you go to an actual interview, when you land an interview, you can bring a real portfolio, which is, a folder essentially. Mine is this big. Sorry, I should have measured. It doesn't have to be that big. You just have to plan like whatever you are going to be printing out. You can also bring an iPad, which I also did. So I had a physical portfolio with printouts of my designs and with some fabric swatches, and also a portfolio on iPad, which was a Google OneDrive folder where I've put the designs that were relevant for the jobs that I was applying to. So it definitely helps to have a versatile portfolio, just in case, because jobs are so versatile and sometimes you can't really plan where exactly you will be working because it depends on your location and what is available. So it's good to have a little bit of kids designs, baby designs, wallpaper designs. But when you are applying to a specific job, you need to narrow down. Don't show the baby company your wallpaper designs. You can mention that, but they are only interested if you can do the job for them. So it's definitely helpful to have some different skills, but that's okay. Everything is manageable. Everything is useful. Number 3 thing is a resume. Even if you don't have a lot of textile design experience yet, a resume just shows that you're a decent, sane person and you understand, what office work is like. You can also put in there all the relevant experience and education. For example, maybe you studied fashion design or industrial design or graphic design or sewing, anything that is related. And I'm gonna refer you again to that 19 kinds of textile design video you can put on your resume. Number 4 is a very, very important thing. It's a positive, go-get-it attitude and enthusiasm. I think it greatly compensates for the lack of experience. If you show your prospective employer that you are a quick learner, that you really want to dive in and learn and do things, they appreciate it. I think that's what kind of happened to me. I was just fresh out of college with several months of, I was dabbling. I founded my own company. I was trying to make patterns, but it didn't happen at the time. It had to wait. So I got the in-house job, worked there, and then I left, and now I'm working at my own company again. Number 5 important thing is your location, because if you live in an area where there are no jobs at all, not even saying such specific jobs as textile design, is just physically impossible to get hired. For example, I live in the Boston area, and maybe it sounds like, oh my god, it's such a big city. Actually, Boston is a relatively smaller city, especially compared to giants such as New York City. Maybe there are like 15 companies total where you can work as a textile designer within like 1.5 hour drive. There's New Balance, Reebok, which are the shoe companies, or the sport clothing company as well, TJX companies where I worked, J. Jill, which is a women's clothing company, Talbot's. The headquarters is here in Massachusetts, but their design team is actually in New York. The paper store, the stationery store, is also in the Boston area, the headquarters. There are some jobs in Rhode Island, but that's already a stretch, a drive, for me, depending on where you live. In big cities, you usually live, very few people live in actual downtown Boston, but usually you're like within 30-50 miles. My internship was in New Hampshire. It was an hour drive from where I lived at the time. And my college actually as well. It was an hour drive, like up the map and down the map for me. Number 6 thing that you need is education. But this now is so fluid, so flexible. Any kind of textile design education that you can put on a resume, it helps. But first and foremost, you will be judged by your portfolio, not by the school that you went to. I think maybe different employers are different, but what I like, it's very shocking to me as an immigrant in my home country, in Belarus. If you don't have a decent diploma, nobody will give you the work. Here in America, if you know how to do the job, if you have a put together portfolio, you can be hired. I mean, I don't think like they completely disregard your college education, but let me tell you, so the company I worked for, we had, I don't remember exactly how many, but let's say maybe 6-7 designers, and we all came from different backgrounds. We had several people from one of the top design schools of the country. We had me, right, who went to college, but I actually do not have a degree in textile design. That's another important thing. I did a certificate program, which is a 2-year program where you specifically study everything related to textile design. So I did not do like math, philosophy, all that stuff, because I already have my degrees from Belarus, and I didn't want to do another degree. I was already over 30, I had a child, and I didn't want to take another huge loan and spend 5 years in college. So a certificate program might be a good opportunity. So another person we had was also from a different country, from the Dominican Republic, and she trained herself on Skillshare to do textile design. But before you gasp, I'll tell you, she was a very good industrial designer. From the DR, she got her education, so she had so many of those skills that could be transferred to textile design. Textile design is easier for her, it's easier. She was developing medical equipment, so of course she can do, fabric patterns. And we had other designers from different schools, somebody studied fashion design, somebody studied illustration. So like I said, there are so many different skills that you can use to your advantage. Number 7 thing, kind of important, right? If you are from outside the United States, you need your legal paperwork. You need your visa or green card or citizenship. Number 8 thing is contact with reality. Reality check.
Reduce your expectations to zero.
Which means that you won't get the highest paid job right away, especially if you don't have experience, you don't have education. You need to be open to opportunities. For example, my job was a contract position, which means it's a full-time job in-house, just like all the other employees, but I did not have any paid vacation. I did not have paid time off. When Christmas was there, I wasn't paid. It was an hourly pay. It was one of the reasons why I left, because I thought, I spent 4 years there and I'd rather spend 4 more years developing on something of my own, because there were no guarantees of being hired. Contract position is so tricky. It's such a sneaky way, for corporations to handle employees. Design is sort of always a little bit looked down on. It's not so valuable as finance, for example, or marketing or HR. Sales, of course, right? Design is kind of like, taken for granted a little bit. I talk about this in my 10 worst things about being a textile designer video. I can talk in more detail about my personal experience, my job. If you would like, I can make a separate video about it. Now I kind of wanted to give you the general rundown. Ask me what would you like to know, what questions you have. So where can you find a job? There's a website called Craigslist in the United States. Don't go there. Don't use it. So this is a website where you can look for like waiter jobs, customer service, receptionist jobs, but those office type professional jobs are not found on Craigslist. Use Indeed.com, use Glassdoor.com, which is also a great website to read reviews. People write anonymous reviews about working there. I wish there were more reviews there, because usually it's like 1 or 2. Monster.com, LinkedIn. So these are good websites to look at. Check all of them. Sometimes you might see the same listing, especially if you're looking locally, or you might see the same ad. Another thing to know is that design jobs are often, since they are contract jobs, they are posted by an agency, an employment agency. Mine was Randstad, and those designers that I mentioned, the 6-7 designers, we all were employed through different agencies. It was interesting because when I applied for the job, I wasn't looking for an agency. I saw the listing and I applied. I was like, I did it myself. But the thing is, that's the way the company works. The employer hires the agency to put that listing up. And then, when you get hired, the agency gets a cut of your paycheck. It's like they found you. Which is confusing, right? Because I found the job myself. But this is the way the employer operates. I think it's their way of handling finances and all that stuff. This is of course not ideal, not perfect, but if you are a beginner designer, this is a good way to get in, you know, and if you work really hard, you might get hired on a constant basis if you behave. I didn't, so I wasn't hired. You just, you know, whatever job you get, you show that you are professional, you are serious, your intention matters. Just show them that you want to grow and you appreciate the company. Now that's it for today. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them below. If you've enjoyed the video, you know the drill, right? You can also support me by this page called Buy Me a Coffee. I'm going to leave a link where you can buy me a coffee, right? You can donate any amount, whatever is comfortable for you. I feel terrible, like it's like donate sounds so weird, right? But I am an artist, I'm an independent artist. YouTube does not bring me any money, and it does take a long while to put these videos together, so any support is really appreciated. Thank you so much. Have a lovely day, and remember, patterns are everywhere.